Members, officers, members of the public, can you please be upstanding for the worshipful, the Mayor of Castle Point, Councillor Lindsay McCarthy-Calvert, the Mayor's Chaplain, Reverend Tanya Meneghetti, and the Council's Chief Executive, Miss Angela Hutchins.
Thank you, members. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Before we start the meeting, I need to make the public attending aware that if the fire alarm goes off, please make your way out of the nearest emergency exit and gather in front of Runnymede Hall. The meetings of the committee are webcast and broadcast on the internet. If you are seated in the public area of the council chamber, it's possible that your image will become part of the broadcast. And lastly, may I ask everyone to make sure your phones are off or silent. I will now ask my chaplain, Reverend Tanya Meneghetti, to say prayers.
Good evening, everyone. As we begin this meeting, let us call upon the strength to hold steady amidst the fear and uncertainty that our world is currently facing. In the Middle East, conflict intensifies, claiming lives and sparking fear in the hearts of millions. As Hurricane Milton reaches Florida, a state bigger than England, millions have left their homes, not knowing what they will return to. And the war in Ukraine continues to tear lives apart and challenge global stability. The fragility of our world feels ever more apparent. Closer to home, the pressure on our NHS, the cost of living crisis, the housing crisis, and rising knife crime means that many in our borough are living in distress, and that fear and uncertainty weigh on us all. It is natural to feel fear in the face of such adversity. And in the teachings of the Abrahamic traditions, we are reminded that courage is not the absence of fear, but the resolve to act with compassion and faith despite it. From the Quran, we are reminded God is with those who patiently persevere. May we take this as an invitation to find strength and patience in these challenging times. The Bible tells us, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of your adversaries, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." Let these words be a source of solace, reminding us that we do not face our struggles alone. And so I invite you all to rest in the silence of your hearts. And you may wish to close your eyes or soften your gaze. And bring your attention to that place which is the purest and most profound part of your being, so that you feel centered and fully present. In this space of stillness, let us reflect on our collective responsibility to navigate our way through fear. Whether it's global conflicts, natural disasters, or personal hardships, may we find strength in our unity and our shared humanity. Let our decisions be made with empathy and wisdom, recognizing that we are all connected and our choices ripple through the lives of many. We pray for those directly impacted by war and disaster, that they may find peace, safety, and comfort amidst the fear. And for us here in Castle Point, may we be a beacon of hope and resilience, standing firm in our commitment to justice, compassion, and peace. And I invite you to remain in the silence of your hearts as I share the Jewish prayer for peace, Oseh Shalom. May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us and for all of humanity. And so, as we commence this ordinary council session, may the light of courage and steadiness guide us through fear, and may the spirit of compassion shape our decisions for the well-being of our community. May Mayor Lindsay McCarthy Calvert be blessed in her overseeing of this meeting and all her work in service to this borough. May this be the ground from which all future actions grow. Amen.
Thank you, Tanya. So we will start this evening's meeting with agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence. Members, we've received apologies from Councillor Grigg, Councillor Bredding and Councillor Harvey. Are there any other apologies? We've had Councillor Payne as well. Thank you. So, moving on to item 2, we have declarations of interest. Members, I understand the monitoring officer has given dispensation to those councillors who are members of Canvey Island Town Council to participate in the debate on item 12 of the agenda relating to the petition. Members, aside from this, are there any other interests to declare? Councillor Payne. Councillor Satch, I beg your pardon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just need to declare that I am actually married to the leader of the Town Council.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I just want to declare that that is in the interest of transparency.
Yes. Thank you, Ms Law. Members, before we move on to the further business this evening, given that there's quite a heavy agenda in front of us, I would like to move a motion without notice to move item 5 of the agenda after item 14. Do I have a seconder? Thank you.
Seconder, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Is that agreed, everyone? Thank you. So, item 3, we have the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of July. And members, are the minutes of the meeting agreed? Okay, so we move on to item 4, and I just have a few announcements to read out. I have been rather busy this past month or so, and I just wanted to let you know what I've been up to. So I've been privileged to attend Siska House Open Day on the 21st of September, and Earl invited me to have a look at what happens there at their wonderful Over 50s Day Centre in the town centre on Canvey, and I'm very grateful to have had a look and met some of the wonderful services that they offer there, and that are available to people on Canvey and beyond if they wish to. It's a wonderful day centre. I don't think it gets enough attention, so I'd like to highlight that to everyone, and if anyone knows anyone that might be benefiting from what they do there, it's a great centre and they do a wonderful lunch. I was also delighted to attend the Worshipful Company of Environmental Cleaners Military Awards at the Ironmongers Hall. It was a very interesting event. I had no idea what environmental cleaners do, and I'm delighted to find out that they're very important in all sorts of capacities, including in our military. So that was wonderful. Once again, I attended the wonderful Benfleet resident Naomi Pilkington's brilliant Macmillan coffee morning that she does every year. She works tirelessly all year round, getting wonderful prizes for her raffle, and she manages to raise an incredible amount of money for the brilliant Macmillan charity. And once again, she outdid herself and raised a staggering £4,800 this year. So thank you to Naomi. I once again attended the marvellous London Pearly Kings and Queens Costermongers Harvest Festival at the Guildhall Yard, and their Harvest Festival service at St Mary Le Bow Church afterwards, to celebrate all the brilliant work that the Pearlies do, raising money for charity through the year. And then, of course, last week we had my interfaith service here at next door at Runnymede Hall, where my brilliant chaplain Tanya Mengati led the service, and her inspired theme of kindness prevailed throughout. And we had wonderful readings. I'd like to thank His Majesty's Lord Lieutenant Jennifer Tolhurst, David Hurst, the High Sheriff of Essex, and our very own CEO Angela Hutchins for their wonderful readings at the service. We had the Holy Family Church's priest, Dr. Edward Fartan. He shared his Catholic reflection with us. We had residents, Dr. Madhavi Pranith, with her Hindu reflection, and the wonderful Islamic reflection from Ashley Elwood, which was very moving and profound. And I'd like to thank all of the members that were present and the members of the public that came and enjoyed the service. And thank you very much to Canvey Community Choir and Bradley Muggleton bringing the Bramu dancers to entertain us in the evening as well. I'm been told everyone enjoyed it, and we managed to raise £120 for the CAVS, the Castle Point Voluntary Services. So a worthwhile evening, and I thank you all very much for that. And I wonder if the leader has any announcements this evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That will come later.
Okay, and the Chief Executive?
Nothing from me, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So moving on to item 6, we have questions from members, which there are none. So we will move on to item 7, which is the business from last council meeting, and members, there are none. Item 8, urgent decisions taken by the Cabinet. Members, there is one urgent decision that was taken by the Deputy Leader on the 20th of September. I believe you have this, and is that noted? Thank you. So, item 9, reports from the Cabinet and committees to Council. Members, there's a report from the Audit and Governance Committee held on the 26th of September. The committee is asking the Council receives the first quarter Treasury Management Report. Is that received, members? Great. And finally, the committee requests that the Council receives the 2023-24 Annual Treasury Management Report. Is that received, members? Wonderful. So we have item 10, the new corporate logo for the council. Members, with a report asking council to endorse the use of a new corporate logo for the council. Ms Adlam, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Thank you. As part of the council's modernisation agenda, it was identified that the corporate logo required updating. The current logo, which was designed before the digital communications era, lacks the compatibility and accessibility required for modern platforms. As such, it does not meet accessibility requirements in terms of design, colourway, font and size. A refreshed logo will not only enhance our visual identity across various digital channels, but will also improve accessibility for all users, including those with disabilities. This update will demonstrate our commitment to innovation and inclusivity, ultimately strengthening our connection with the community and enhancing our overall brand perception. As a champion of accessibility and accessible standards, the Council should lead and demonstrate the importance of accessible communications. As the way we all communicate has developed and changed, so our communications assets need to evolve to ensure we can respond to and adhere to new standards. Further development work will follow over our digital platforms and social media channels to ensure we meet and comply with the latest accessible standards. The new logo is an evolution of the existing corporate identity to meet required standards. It's not a rebranding exercise. So the rollout will be gradual. Digital and print rollout first, and then any new commissioned signage. Other applications, such as hard signage, vehicle livery, and paper, will only be considered, for example, if life expired or when paper stock has been depleted and requires replacement.
Thank you, Ms Adlin. Councillor Blackwell, as leader, would you like to move the recommendation to
Thank you,
council
Madam
set
Mayor.
out?
I'm pleased to move the recommendation to council set out in paragraph 3.1. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson, as deputy leader, will you second the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll happily second the recommendation.
Thank you. So, members, we have a live motion for debate. Would anyone like to speak on the recommendation? Okay, so, Council, the recommendation is to endorse the use and rollout of the new corporate logo for the Council as set out in Appendix 1. May I have a show of hands for those in favour of the motion? Thank you. That's a unanimous decision, Council. That's agreed. Item 11, we have the recruitment of independent persons. Members, we have a report asking Council to authorise the recruitment of independent persons to the Audit and Governance Committee, Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Standards Committee and to the Independent Remuneration Panel. Ms Law, if I could ask you to present the report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report seeks authorisation to recruit independent persons to the Audit and Governance Committee, Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Standards Committee and to the Independent Remuneration Panel. The 4 recommendations are set out under paragraph 3.1 of the report. All members here have a responsibility to ensure that there are effective and proper processes in place to ensure accountability, transparency and proper scrutiny to ensure good governance. Legislation dictates that the Council is required to have at least 1 independent person for the standards regime and stand up an independent remuneration panel to review your allowances. With regards to the Audit and Governance Committee and Overview and Scrutiny, this is merely a good practice that should be followed up as with other councils up and down the country. Independent persons act as a critical friend, providing effective, constructive and impartial challenge and other views on matters. They will review and scrutinise your decisions made. There is a definition under paragraph 7.7 of the report, and recruitment is generally sought through advertising the roles. I have been asked whether they have to live in the district. The answer is no. Recruitment to the roles will ensure that the Council is compliant with legislation and follows good practice to support and maintain good governance. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Law. So, Councillor Blackwell, will you as leader of
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move the recommendation into council paragraph 3.1. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson, as deputy leader, are you seconding?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will indeed second the motion.
Thank you. So again, members, we have a motion for debate. Would anyone like to speak on the recommendations? Okay, so we can vote on the recommendation. So if I can have a show of hands for those in favour. Unanimous. That is unanimous and agreed. Thank you. So item 12, we have a permission submitted by members of the public. We have a report from the Chief Executive relating to this petition that has been submitted by members of the public. If I could ask the Chief Executive to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, it is important to look closely at the way in which the petition is worded, because that determines whether the call to action is something which this council can legally do. Although there is a lot of reporting, a lot of commentary, particularly on social media, this petition is not about Canby Lake. It may well be the motivation behind the petition's organisers, but it is not the stated call to action. The petition is purported to be on behalf of those residents of Canvey Island who are signatories to the petition, firstly to endorse the subscribers' vote of no confidence in Canvey Island Town Council, and secondly to hold a referendum to abolish it. The Town Council is an autonomous council within the statutory framework of local government. It was formally constituted by government on 2nd of December 2006, and this council is therefore not generally responsible for the Town Council. So turning then to the first part of the call to action in the petition, which is that the council should endorse the subscribers' vote of no confidence. A decision of the council to do this would not and could not have any legal impact on the Town Council's status and would be of reputational impact only. Nonetheless, members, it is a matter for you to decide whether you wish to make that endorsement. The second part of the call to action in the petition is that the council should hold a referendum to abolish the Town Council. And as I just mentioned, the Town Council is an autonomous organisation, and so there is no inherent power for the Borough Council to abolish it. There is, however, a statutory power for the Borough Council to take decisions about matters such as the creation of parishes and their electoral arrangements to local government and local communities in England. Under the 2000 Act, as referenced in the report, the Council utilises this statutory power through undertaking something called a community governance review, not a referendum. So it is therefore not legally possible for the Council to do what is asked by the second part of the petition, namely to hold a referendum to remove the Town Council. And on that basis, members, the second part of the call to action fails. When officers were reviewing this petition, they considered the Council's wider statutory powers around community governance reviews. And the law says that it is possible to commence a community governance review by way of something called a community governance petition. And when a valid community governance petition is presented to a council, then that council is under a duty to carry out a community governance review. So the important question which officers considered is whether this petition amounts to a valid community governance petition in line with the law, which therefore would require the council to act. There are a number of very specific criteria which a petition must meet in order to be considered as a community governance petition, and those are set out in detail in the report. However, with apologies, Madam Mayor, there is one correction in paragraph 6 which needs to be noted for the minutes, which is that the reference to 10% should in fact be 7.5%. There is a conflict, members, between the statutory guidance and the statutory instrument in relation to that, but we've taken advice and it is the latter rather than the former. In practical difference, the 7.5% would amount to 2,210 subscribers, 10% being 2,947 subscribers. So the conclusion of officers as set out in the report is that whilst the petition does on the face of it have the potential to meet the required threshold of signatories, it fails on the remainder of the criteria required by the Act because it does not specifically call for a community governance review and it does not specify one or more recommendations which the petitioners wish a community governance review to consider making. Had it met all of those criteria, officers would have checked each and every signature against the electoral register to ensure the threshold was properly met, and members would have been advised of their statutory obligations. The conclusion is therefore that this petition does not amount to a valid community governance petition, and the Council is not therefore required to commence a community governance review as a consequence of it. It nevertheless remains an option under the 2007 Act for the Council to commence a community governance review on its own account, and as there has not been such a review since the Town Council was inaugurated in 2006, it would be appropriate for the Council to consider a review ahead of the next Town Council elections in 2027, and that would be in line with statutory guidance. I've asked the monitoring officer, therefore, to prepare a report for Council before the end of the municipal year for your consideration. So, members, the options for this evening are therefore for you to either consider the call for action set out in the petition and to propose and second a motion accordingly, or to take no further action in respect of the petition. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So, members, you will see from the report you are invited to consider the petition and decide whether to endorse it or take no further action. On that basis, I'll open the matter up to debate and invite motions from the floor. Councillor Sage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have to question this because when I was down the town with Councillor Huntman, we actually was having a conversation, and the woman that was doing the petition was shouting out, "Save Canvey Lake," not "get rid of the town council." Save Canvey Lake, save Canvey Lake.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Huntman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I've just got a few words to say on this. We've seen with recent events nationally a virus engulf our country, not least on social media, but also our mainstream media, and that's a virus of misinformation. And I'm sad to say it's now spread locally by those with an agenda which some may say is not entirely transparent. Now, having read the report, it seems apparent this petition may not be entirely as it seems, so I don't discount some have genuine concerns. I'm actually involved here in the hope of serving the community to my best ability. With the experience I've learnt in 30 years out there in the harsh reality of the world building a business. I like to think I'm a fair and reasonable man and do not see a benefit in anything which could be used as a political football. Indeed, there are some who, if this council passed a resolution confirming the world is round, would still argue it's flat. As far as the town council is concerned, it's always had widespread support from those of all political persuasions. Our own Borough Freeman, Ray Howard MBE, who when I was at county never failed to mention Canvey on whatever we were debating, was and is a huge supporter, having been involved with the town council since its inception. Even though we may disagree on many matters in politics, Canvey Town Council, which does so much good work locally and gives us on the island a good degree of autonomy, has risen above this. But if guilty of anything, it's that it should be more vocal in countering inaccuracies. I've no doubt in its ability with its Gold Standard Quality Award. Long may it continue, and I will be voting to take no action on this petition.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make one observation. Looking at the report, it appears to me the petition had multiple entries signed by one person, entries without signature. So, notwithstanding everything that we've heard or the Chief Executive has said, for this council to consider any petition or to consider this petition, I think would be improper. Bear in mind it lacks credibility. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor. Any more comments? So, members, can I ask if anyone would like to move a recommendation to Council?
Please, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Huntman.
Yeah, I'd like to move the recommendation, I think it's paragraph 3.2, that we take no further action in respect of the petition.
Okay, and do we have a seconder?
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Bowcar. Okay, so members, we have a motion. Does anyone wish to speak on Councillor Huntman's motion? No, we shall go to a vote. Can I have a show of hands for those in favour of the motion to take no action? I believe that is unanimous. Thank you. So that is agreed. Thank you, members. We have item number 13, which is the Pay Policy Statement Amendment and Job Evaluation Project Update. Members, you have a report in front of you and updating the council on the job evaluation project and providing an amended pay policy statement for council to approve. Ms Smith, if you could introduce the report for us, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, this report is to provide an update on the Council's job evaluation project, which was one of the key elements of the Transforming Together programme. The job evaluation project has concluded, and as a result, there are updates necessary to the Council's pay policy statement for this year, 2024-25. For some background, job evaluation was essential to ensure the council had in place a fair and equal pay structure and is a critical element to achieving a single status agreement with trade unions. Single status was originally introduced nationally back in 1997, and at a local level, councils were required to implement this, with any local variations agreed through local negotiations with trade unions. Castle Point Borough Council was believed to be the only council in the country without single status in place when this work commenced. The job evaluation work has resulted in significant investment in the pay structure for the organisation, with an additional cost of implementing the changes to salaries in this financial year of £244,000. It's a positive step forward for the organisation, with more than 60% of the workforce seeing an immediate increase to pay from September 2024, and just under a third of staff seeing no immediate change. Unfortunately, as is the case with the implementation of all job evaluation schemes, a small proportion of staff are negatively impacted by its implementation, with 9% of staff seeing a pay decrease as a result of implementation. However, pay protection arrangements will be in place for the next 12 months to help mitigate any immediate impact. The council also took the opportunity through the JE work to ensure that other allowances were being fairly applied across the council. This mainly related to some historical arrangements and payments in waste, which have now been amended to reflect the terms and conditions of all other staff and in line with existing policy. I am pleased to confirm that following extensive negotiation with the council's recognised trade unions, which are Unison and GMB, agreement was reached with their members to accept the proposals regarding job evaluation, and it has been implemented effective the 1st of September 2024. It is a requirement that the council has a pay policy statement published for each financial year. The 2024-25 statement was brought to February Council for agreement, and it was acknowledged that this would need to be brought back in this year to reflect the outcomes of job evaluation, and the updated policy statement is included at Appendix 1. This amended statement takes into account the impact of job evaluation and provides further clarity on pay arrangements across all tiers of staff in the council. And within the report, council are asked to note the conclusion of the job evaluation project and consider the recommendations regarding the financial investment needed and the amended pay policy statement at Appendix 1. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation to council set out in paragraph 3.1 and paragraph 3.2. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson, will you be seconding?
Madam Mayor, yes, I'll happily second the motion, but just before I do, sorry, Michaela, could you just clarify when was the last job evaluation in Castle Point?
Yeah, of course, Councillor Gibson. I don't believe job evaluation has ever existed at Castle Point Borough Council before, so this is the first evaluation, the first job evaluation scheme implemented here.
Well, in that case, I will most certainly second the recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. So, members, would anyone like to speak on the recommendations? Okay, so Council, can we vote on the recommendations altogether? Can we have a show of hands for those in favour of the motion? I believe that is unanimous. Okay, so that, thank you, Council, that's agreed. Moving on to item 14, we have the Senior Manager Pay and Conditions claim for restitution. If I can ask the Chief Executive to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, this report is the next stage of the Council's actions in addressing the issues raised by an internal audit report into Senior Manager Pay and Conditions in July 2022. Members will be aware that the issues have been reported to Extraordinary Audit Committee on the 24th of July 2023 and 29th September 2023, to the Staff Appointments and Review Panel on the 27th of February of this year, Full Council on the 13th of March this year, and to Audit and Governance Committee on the 25th of July this year. The sums under consideration are therefore within the public domain, and so I will repeat them here. There are 6 types of payment, members, which I'm going to be asking you to consider this evening. The first is payments made in respect of flexible retirement decisions for senior managers. The value of the pension strain payments was £542,925. This was paid to the pension fund and not to any individual. It is permissible to grant flexible retirement in line with the corporate policy. However, this decision was taken incorrectly. The second type of payment is flexible retirement decisions for the late Chief Executive. The value of the pension strain payment was £60,085. This was paid to the pension fund and not to any individual. And the decision was taken by members, albeit incorrectly, by Cabinet instead of correctly by full council. The third type of payment was flexible retirement scheme additional payments for senior managers made through the Senior Manager Annual Leave Buyback Scheme. And the value of those payments was £263,351. No policy framework existed for these payments to be made, and there is no evidence that members knew about them, but contractual terms and conditions were amended and non-disclosure agreements were put in place. The fourth type of payment is a flexible retirement scheme additional payments for the late Chief Executive made through the Senior Manager's Annual Leave Buyback Scheme, including payments following his death. The value of those payments is £201,966. No policy framework existed for these payments to be made, and there is no evidence that members knew about them. There is also no evidence that contractual terms and conditions were amended. The fifth type of payment is authorising performance payments to oneself in respect of the late Chief Executive. The value is £79,189. Failure of process and no evidence that performance-related pay was payable under the contractual terms and conditions. And the final type of payment is authorising payment to oneself in respect of the former Section 151 officer to the value of £5,812. And again, this is a failure of process, but performance-related pay was payable to that individual under their contractual terms and conditions. Members, this makes a total of £1,153,328. At the meeting of full council on the 13th March 2024, the council resolved to note these unlawful decisions and potentially unlawful payments, and to obtain further legal and other professional advice and analysis with a view to issuing a claim or claims for restitution. External legal advice has therefore been commissioned. And as that legal advice is about the council's legal position in relation to pursuing claims for recovery of monies paid, that advice remains confidential and so must not be disclosed and discussed in public session. However, as part of the council's commitment to transparency, I can reiterate that all that can be shared publicly has been shared, and that the decisions which council will take tonight will be taken in public. The Council's financial regulations make it clear that we have a duty to take prompt action to write off debts which are deemed to be no longer recoverable. On that basis, those payments which we believe that are not recoverable should be written off. This is part of our normal approach to financial prudence and protecting the public purse and should not be viewed as capitulation or running away from the problem. The Council, like any business, writes off monies which there is no reasonable prospect of recovering. It does not waste public money in pursuing sums which it would not be economical to pursue. Equally, for those payments which we believe are recoverable, the starting position is that the council should take steps to recover them. Of course, there can never be any guarantee of recovery, especially when litigation is part of the process. But the council has a duty to the public purse to pursue recovery where there is a reasonable prospect of doing so, and it is not uneconomical to do so. For example, if the costs of litigating outweigh the sums claimed. It is for that reason that litigation is always the last option for recovery, and pre-action correspondence and alternative dispute resolution procedures should be considered first. Even when litigation is begun, the risks of litigation must be kept under constant review as part of a cost-benefit analysis to ensure that the public purse is protected. So, members, there are two questions. Firstly, which payments do we believe are not recoverable and why? And secondly, which payments do we believe have the potential for recovery and what should we do about those? These questions are addressed in the legal advice, which is in the exempt appendix, and so in order for members to fully understand the issues, Madam Mayor, I would invite you to take counsel to move into private session, please.
Thank you. So, members, I will move a motion without notice in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 15.11 to exclude the press and public from the meeting as exempt information will be discussed. Councillor Blackwell, will you second the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Members, is that agreed? Thank you. So if the public live stream can be stopped. Okay, so we are back in the public session, and Councillor Blackwell, I'll invite you to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for allowing me to stay seated. Madam Mayor, may I say the fact that when this was first brought to our attention, when this administration took over, it was obvious that there was something wrong with officers' pay and performance-related pay and chief exec's bonuses. I personally asked the chief exec to look into an investigation. The thing that's come out now is quite daunting. And the one thing we must remember, Madam Mayor, that all this happened under the previous Conservative administration. And what had happened, it had been going on for many years. So when I first became aware of the issues, it was identified by internal audit report back in 2022. I was very concerned. What we know now that is the past decisions were not taken correctly and payments were made without members' oversight. This historic mismanagement has cost this council serious sums of money and has resulted in our 2020 and 2021 accounts being disclaimed by our external auditors. This administration has taken steps to deal with this problem, which we have inherited from the previous Conservative administration. We have put in place a robust transformation programme, a job evaluation, which has created a new staffing structure for the council. We have put in place a new constitution, a new system and a new process, and strengthened the role of elected members to ensure that this sort of thing can never happen again. We had an LGA health check in December last year, which commended our transformation, and we have finished the LGA Corporate Peer Challenge, which validated the work which we have done so far, bringing this organisation back to good health. We still have a lot to do, but this administration will focus on taking this council forward to do the right thing by our residents and make this council something of which we can all be proud of. I would therefore like to move the following motion: that recommendation 2 in the report be approved in respect of the £281,155 paid to the late Chief Executive as the additional payments to a flexible retirement scheme through annual leave buyback and performance-related pay, which the late Chief Executive awarded himself, and that the recommendation 1 in the report be approved in respect of all other payments identified in the report to full council on the 13th of March 2023, and that the recommendations 3 and 4 be approved as drafted in this report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gibson, are you seconding?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I will second the motion. I'd like to say a few words, if I may. I mean, I think the leader has pretty much covered most of it. But it is true, back in March, this council, we took the decision to note the unlawful payments made at that time and obtain further legal and other professional advice and analysis with a view to issuing a claim or claims for restitution. As councillors, our primary concern is to protect the council, its finances and its ability to remain in control of its future. For that reason, we all have to consider whether it is right to throw good money after bad and whether it is viable to recoup any of the money. But that said, we have a duty to pursue the claims which we believe we have the best chance of winning. Our decision tonight has serious implications, and to be honest with you, it makes me angry that we've been left to clear up this mess. But unfortunately, this sorry episode is symptomatic of the poor state of the council we inherited. There is still much more for us to put right the wrongs of the past. But I know every member in this chamber, and I know they are committed to doing just that. We all have to do what we believe is right, both in terms of law and, more importantly, in the eyes of the residents. So I will second the motion and I will be supporting it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak or ask questions in this public session? Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting the motion, but I wish to make a personal statement. During a time when food banks have become a way of life and families are struggling to heat their homes, these so-called irregularities represent a staggering abuse of power in public office. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lillis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members will know that this item pains me immensely. And I think it's fair to say that it's the reason why many of us are here as councillors this evening. What we had was a dysfunctional council with chronic failings on two levels. One, officers, who quite frankly let us down. And two, the members, the councillors that we elected to represent us failed to do their basic duty and hold the council to account and scrutinise. So it does pain me. As I say, it pains me immensely. This is a large sum of money. They are large sums of money that we're talking about tonight, but I will be supporting the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Edwards.
Can I just ask you to confirm that recommendation 2, where it says issue and settle court proceedings, implicitly includes the alternative dispute recognition and the negotiation that was mentioned in the legal advice? Thank you.
Yes, CEO can answer that.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Yes, I can confirm that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Huntman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'll just be brief, but because a lot of the points have been echoed. But in my view, it seems there weren't only questions over legality, but also morality in this. Any fair-minded person should know the distinction between right and wrong. And under this administration, I'm sure such failings will never recur again. I'll support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, members, we have a motion that's been moved and seconded, and the recommendation 2 in the report be approved in respect of the £281,155 paid to the late Chief Executive as additional payments to the flexible retirement scheme through annual leave buyback and the performance-related pay which the late Chief Executive awarded to himself, and that recommendation 1 in the report be approved in respect of all other payments identified in the report to full council on the 13th of March 2023, and that recommendations 3 and 4 be approved as drafted in the report. If I can have a show of hands for those in favour of the motion. That is a unanimous decision and that is agreed. Thank you, Council. Okay, so we will move back to agenda item 5 that we moved to this point because I wanted to give enough time for this important business that we had to undertake this evening. We have received a total of 9 questions from the public. These are set out in item 5 of the agenda. And I'd like to remind the public and the members that in accordance with the Constitution, there's no further opportunity for a member of the public to make a statement or ask supplementary questions, and no councillor other than those answering the questions is permitted to speak. Now, having considered the length of time we've been here this evening and the debate that's already taken, and the fact that I'm just going to confirm that the gallery, we do have 2 members, but I understand that none of the 9 members of the public that are asking questions this evening are present. I think everyone can confirm that. Considering that, it would be normal within the Constitution that in paragraph 12.10 it states that the person asking the question must normally be present at the meeting, and that I can exercise my discretion to allow those questions. But this evening, I think we've done a lot of work this evening, and considering that looking at the names of the people that have asked questions to this council this evening, their absence doesn't seem to be the only thing that they have in common. So I'm quite happy for those questions to be noted, and they will all be written to with full answers from those that are answering the questions from members tonight. So thank you to everyone that asked questions, and we will move on to item 14, which is the report from the Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be as quick as I can. Members, I'm happy that this is second ordinary meeting of the Council for 24-25 to provide you with an update of some of the key issues of business dealt with by the Cabinet since the last ordinary Council meeting. That was in July 24. Cabinet approved extra funding for the paddocks refurbishment to enable further works to be undertaken, including electrical rewiring, replacement of lower roof, replacement of high-level rotten window frames, cladding, render repairs and upgrading of fire alarm security alarm system, putting in place a door entry system and completing external redecoration works. At the meeting on 18th September, Cabinet approved a business scheme for a new customer relations management system. This is a key step forward in modernising the way residents and businesses interact with the council to access information, request and access services. Customers will be able to access all of this at their own convenience rather than having to do so within working hours. The system will streamline customers' interaction and improve their experience and result in a quicker, more efficient response to queries. The Cabinet also approved voluntary and community sector building and land leasing policies. This will ensure a consistent approach when Council leases any of its assets to the voluntary and community sector, which will be fair and transparent. The policy will be applied to all council properties that cannot reasonably achieve a full market rent, as agreed by the Asset Review Board. The Cabinet also agreed to grant a lease for a part of the council offices to CAVS. Currently, CAVS lease part of the first floor of the White House, which is at the rear of the council offices. The current space is not as modern as the council offices, and the new space within Kiln Road offices is an improved location for them to operate their services to their residents. Their existing lease to the White House will be replaced with a new lease at a lower value. However, under the new lease, CAVS will pay a service charge to the council to cover, for example, utility costs. Finally, in September, the Deputy Leader responded to 2 consultations on behalf of the council, one on proposed reforms to the National Planning Policy Framework, and the other changes to the planning system to the other Essex Transport Strategy consultation, and I thank him very much for his response. Members, that's it, and I wish you a good evening.
Thank you, Councillor. We have no notices of motion, so I will conclude the meeting. There's no other business, so thank you very much. We conclude the meeting this evening at 8:20. Thank you all for coming, and I bid you good night.